exactly. It's almost desperation. They need those leads and they're willing to pay top dollar for them. And we've definitely seen $100 a click, $150 a click. It's crazy some of the numbers that we see for the legal profession. And people hate ads and they hate paying for ads, but they feel like they're stuck.
Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I have a wonderful guest, somebody I just met him face-to-face on Zoom for the first time, but we have connected on LinkedIn, had some conversation back and forth, and I'm really excited to get him on the show because he's a marketer, and we can't get enough marketers on here to cover every aspect of marketing. If you say that you're doing all the marketing that's possible, you're lying. And there's just an unlimited, infinite ways to get in front of your target customer. And the biggest thing that you have to grapple with as a law firm owner is to try to figure out which is the right next marketing tactic to deploy in your law firm, which one is working, which is not. And there isn't a one size fits all. There isn't a right answer for everybody. As a matter of fact, part of being a firm owner is, and I talk about this on a lot of podcasts, and I talk about it with my coaching clients all the time. Your job as a business owner is to be a scientist. Think of a scientist who's trying to prove a scientific theory, right? They want to have this breakthrough. They're going to run an experiment, and the experiment will fail. And they'll run it again with a slight deviation. The experiment will fail. They'll run it again with another deviation. They will take every possible permutation of how to do that thing that they're experimenting on to find the one that works. And the success happens after all those failures, right? And when you're a business owner, you're going to do things that are not going to work. You're going to, whether it's investing in marketing or hiring somebody on your team or implementing a process, you're going to buy some technology, right? How many people have bought a practice management software and then a year later they're switching to a different one, right? We make mistakes. We make mistakes as firm owners, but they're not mistakes. They're the process of growth. They're the process of learning. And when we talk about marketing, there's so many things that you just need to know by trial and error whether it's going to work for you, and specifically what your law firm has to offer and the clientele that you're after. And when you find out something doesn't work, to abandon that and move on to the next thing. And when something does work, to really dive into it and take it to as the deepest level possible so you get the best results from it. So I love having conversations with marketing experts because there's always something new to learn. There's always a new idea that you might be able to try on and just see if it fits for you and see if it's right for you. So our guest today is Erik Olson. He's the founder and CEO of Array Digital. Array Digital is a marketing agency that enables its clients to achieve their dreams, fulfill their missions, and impact more lives with their services. He's also author of $1 Million Journey, How to Launch a 7-Figure Business, and that's available on Amazon. And we'll link that up in the show notes for you. He's also host of the Managing Partners podcast, interviews with America's top managing partners about how they're running and growing their law firms. And I just got invited to be on their show. So make sure that you go check their show out and go listen to my interview when it gets released. When this gets released, that one might already be out. Who knows? So go check it out. Host of the Journey to $100 Million Daily podcast, sharing tips, tricks, and lessons learned from scaling Array Digital into a world-class digital marketing powerhouse. You know what I love? I'm reading the scripted intro for Erik. what I love is that Erik loves podcasts, right? I mean, he's got multiple shows. And that's my, like, in my future days, like one day, there's more podcasts in me, and I can't wait to be doing exactly that. I would love to have multiple shows. It's just, there's a lot of time, energy, and effort, and money required to host a show. I'm just living vicariously through Erik right now. So Erik speaks often on the topics of entrepreneurship, building freelance business, and digital marketing. You can connect with him on Instagram, at Erik, and that's with a K, not C, or not CK, ERIK .J.Olson, OLSON. We'll link that up in the show notes. Don't worry about it. If you're in the shower, driving to work, running outside, running on the treadmill, on your Peloton, whatever you're doing, holding two kids, one under each arm, don't worry about taking notes today. Just listen into our conversation, and we've got it all covered for you. The show notes listed right underneath the podcast episode, or at profitwithlaw.com, has not only the recap of our conversation, but it also has a link to all the resources mentioned on this episode. If you're interested in learning more about our Elite Lawyer program, it all starts with an absolutely free coaching session. So you can book a free coaching session with my coaching staff, where they will spend the time with you to help you understand and overcome the things that might be getting in your way of achieving your success. You'll leave that coaching session invigorated and inspired to be able to continue moving in the right direction. Now, in full disclosure, at the end of that coaching session, they're going to potentially offer you the opportunity to join our Elite Lawyer coaching program. That is the only way that you can get into that. So if that's something that interests you, if you would like some help along the way, then go to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. Profitwithlaw.com/free coaching takes you right to a calendar booking link. You got to answer some questions on a form there, grab a spot on the calendar, and there's absolutely no commitment. You just have that coaching session, see how you feel, and then decide whether you want to continue the ride with us. Erik, welcome to the show.
Mo, thank you for having me. And thank you for that intro. I would say that's probably the best intro I've ever received. And by the way, like everything that you were saying before you even got to me it resonated with me, because I'm a business owner just like your audience. And yeah, it's continual experimentation, and it's in different areas of the business. It could be in marketing. It could be in sales. It could be in finance. It could be in the way that you price your services. There's a lot of different things to running a business. And yeah, there's a lot of experimentation. But actually, one of the things I really like about what you're doing and the business that you run is that people don't have to learn by knocking their head against the wall and experimenting and failing and potentially having a fatal failure where the business just, that's it. You don't have any more to go around. And so linking up with someone like you as a coach, it shortcuts the path to success. So I really like what you're doing. And yeah, everything you said resonated with me. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Erik. And I recently had a guest on the show, and he talked about how he just like his big jump from small law firm to on his way to and he's a decent size law firm, and I'm forgetting his name right now. I apologize to him profusely, but my team will go and find the episode and link it up in the show notes. But he talked in that episode about his big risk that he took was to go into TV ads, like big time into TV ads. And he talked about how he took a loan from his parents, who took money from their retirement. Like they were in retirement, took money from their retirement and loaned it to him. Like they staked their retirement on his success, which is pretty incredible. And it was the best move that he ever made in his business. And he's got this massive law firm to show for it. But at the same time, your point is well received. In other words, it could have failed drastically, and then he would have not only been out of business, but he would have also needed to support his parents during their retirement because he would have taken all their money. So, but I did ask him about that. Like, that level of risk. And he did say that they had tested the market first, and it wasn't like they were stepping into something that they didn't know that they can expect the results. It was just he needed the bankroll to make it happen. And he's a personal injury firm, so it takes time to get paid on cases, and that's why you need capital. And interesting that because capital is a whole conversation that we can have, and so many law firms don't realize you need investment capital to grow. And talking to a marketer, it's the same with you, right? Like somebody needs to invest for 12 to 18 months, and maybe you can correct me on my numbers, but 12 to 18 months in SEO before they can really expect to see some real results from the SEO, meaning that they're ranking high enough that their phone is ringing from that effort. And that means that they need to have the capital to front load so that eventually they get the return on that experiment or that investment. And that's something that's not talked about, right? People don't think in terms of how long is it going to take me to get the results? Do I have that to spend? And if I don't, let me solve that now, right? So that I'm not 6 months in and thinking I'm not getting the results. Now I'm desperate. I need to put my money here, and I need to pull the plug on something else. I have a client right now in my coaching program who needed to put the brakes on her SEO activities so that she can invest in pay-per-click, because she needs to grease the client wheel. And it's not that the previous work is going to go to waste, but it is going to delay the results that she would have gotten had she just continued the course. And she knows that. I mean, she came to that decision carefully, but that could have been avoided by recognizing how long it's going to take and what the real needs are going into it. But before we dive into the whole marketing conversation, because you have so much to share and I'm excited to jump into that with you, give my listeners a quick intro to you. Like, just, how did you get into marketing? How did you get to law firms? What's your backstory? And how do you arrive at the expert status you are today to be on this show?
Sure. Yeah. So I was trained actually as a civil engineer. I graduated from Virginia Tech way back in the dark ages of 1994. And I did that for about 6 years. I was a construction project management with my civil engineering degree, trying to take advantage of that. But it wasn't really a perfect fit for me. I had the engineering knack and I knew how to solve problems, but construction was one of those things. It just wasn't a good fit for me. And at the same time, I saw a couple of friends from college who were doing things like working on HTML at places like America Online. If you remember that back in those days, if you knew anything about the internet, you could make easily 6 figures or more. And so I started to tinker with that. And I taught myself how to code. And so I started to become a custom software developer, and I came up with a couple of different products. If you think about like Angie's List, that was one of my first concepts, not that site itself, but a similar concept that connects homeowners with contractors. And I went through the pain of building that whole system. It took many, many months and a couple $1,000. I had to hire some people to help me. And I put it out in the world and nothing really happened. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. I built this awesome product. So I took it down. Eventually I did it again. I built another one. Think Etsy, very similar. People who build these items and they want to sell online. I put it up there. I did kind of an okay job marketing it, but I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And it faltered. And so 2 strikes, and I started to figure out, okay, it takes more than just having a good product, having a good service to actually get clients to come to you. And I realized I needed to learn marketing. Now, between then and now is about 20 years of experience where I was coding a lot and I learned how to market my software business. And about 5 years ago, we were doing some digital marketing for a lot of our clients, but we were mostly a software company. 5 years ago, I came together with a web developer. We rebranded as Array Digital. And we were both like, you know what, we need to do a little more of this digital marketing that we've been tinkering with here and there. And so we started to hire a staff of digital marketers, and we really focused on that to the point where we realized that the marketing was actually more valuable to our clients than the thing that we built for them, the website or the mobile app or whatever it was. That was just a means to the end. What they really needed was new clients. and the website or the mobile app was just a tool to get there. And so we started to go all in, and very quickly in the course of about 6 months, we scrapped the software part of our company, which was what I grew up doing. And we completely refocused on digital marketing. I spent the next 5 years doing a massive deep dive in digital marketing to figure out what's actually working. Now, remember, I'm an engineer, so I need to understand this stuff. I can't just be like, yeah, I guess this SEO thing works, but whatever. I figured it out. And so through a lot of trial and error on our own marketing, working with clients, actually, tons of studying, hiring really good people, we figured it out. And when it comes certainly to like website design, when it comes to SEO, and certainly things like Google advertising, which we do a lot of for our clients, it's actually very formulaic. Like there's a way that it's done. You have to do it a certain way. And if you try to take shortcuts, if you go to the internet and you pay $100 for someone to do your SEO, well, you pay for what you get. You're not going to get much there. And as a matter of fact, it could actually hurt you. And we have seen implementations where people hire quote SEO experts, and it just deteriorates their SEO. So we've done a massive investment in things like SEO, Google advertising, and then also website design. We also provide social media services, but we don't drive a lot of new traffic from that. What really gets the phone ringing is SEO. Like you said, there's also a lead time to that. So you said, I think you said 12 to maybe 18 months before you start to get good
Yep.
results. Yeah. So when we start to do our SEO and we put content out in the world, and we're generating things like backlinks, we can definitely see with our tools that those pieces, individual web pages, are moving through the ranks on the targeted keywords, but they'll start off very low, page 15. So it's in Google, but it doesn't matter unless you're on page one. So it goes from page 15 to 13. Next week is 10. Maybe 3 weeks later, it's up to 8. And we're starting to climb through the ranks. Eventually, it goes from 2 to 1, typically goes back down to 2, back to 1, back down to 2, back to 1. And then it's firmly on page 1. Then our goal is to get it up to the top 3. If you can get in the top 3, especially if you get in the top 1, you're going to start printing money. And so that's our goal. And our goal is to do what we did with a client. I just sent an update earlier today. Year over year, 328% increase in their targeted organic traffic. So we want to do that for all of our clients. We focused on legal because at some point, probably about 3 years ago, I did an analysis of all of our clients. Like most agencies, we started off as a local agency, just working with any industry. But I did an analysis, and it turned out we were doing the best for our law firm clients. We weren't really sure why, but it was really clicking. And we said, let's do more of this and less of that. And then about 2 years ago, we went again, all in, legal. That's all we're going to do. We still have clients in other industries, but we only market to law firms. We only take new clients that are law firms. They're great clients. And the ones that are committed to marketing, we can have a profound impact on their personal, professional, and financial goals. And I love it.
Yeah, so you pumpkin planned your way into law firms as your client. That's a Mike Michalowicz book, Pumpkin Plan, and that book is focused on continuing to weed through the bad clients and keep the good ones. So with that, the idea of the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, where 80% of your results is coming from 20% of your clients. And if you just continue to fire your bad clients and keep the good ones, you end up with a really healthy business. And so you did that, and that produced a bunch of law firms, and you said, hey, this is something we should dive into. And I'm guessing you also figured out which practice areas work best for you, and through that same process. So that's really cool story of how you got there. Interesting, because I sit in a seat where I get to see that marketers like to say that well, I mean, the real key to your business is just more clients, right? The more clients we can get you, how could you not be successful with more clients? And I sit in the role of the holistic business, right? And you probably don't disagree with me on this, but when my coaching clients come in the door, they think that their problem is I need more clients, but often they have a problem with converting leads to clients. They have a problem with making happy clients, so they're not getting good reviews. They have a problem with their system or their process. So even though they're having clients and they're charging the clients money, they're actually not providing a service efficiently, and it's costing more to service them than it is than you're collecting. So there's so many pieces to the business puzzle to end up with profit at the end of the day, that's where my focus is. And yes, it's absolutely critical to have a system to create clients, especially to create clients on demand. Like, you need to be able to say, okay, I'm ready for the next step. Let's accelerate this. Let's grow this. And if you don't have control over that, that becomes a big problem. You and I talked in the green room at the beginning before we hit record. And you shared with me that you have this basically 6 phases that somebody can fit into. And that was based off of a question that I had posed to you, or that I told you I wanted to talk about. So I just want to frame it for our listeners. And I actually want to ask you to dive into those 6 steps, and we can talk a little bit about each one of them. So one of the things that I find to be confusing, and my listeners are probably confused by the same thing, is trying to navigate and figure out which marketer to listen to, right? And really, it has to do with what stage of business are you at? What are you ready to invest? And some of it is, in the early stages, when you don't have the budget to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on marketing. Sometimes you have to realize that you need to have that budget. And if you don't have it, then maybe you need to get it. Like, I don't know, go to grandma, or, go to your parents' retirement fund. No, but in all seriousness, like, get a line of credit, get some credit cards. And I'm not promoting going into deep debt on risks in your business. What I am saying is find the marketing strategy that is the right strategy for you, and then invest in it. And if it requires capital, find the capital. Because if you wait until you have the capital because you're doing well enough, that's a long journey when you're just hoping it's going to rain. And, you're not controlling the rain. And that's really the first bridge to gap, is to recognize that in order to grow, in order to accelerate the growth, you're going to have to invest, and you're going to have to be ready to spend some money. And your phases are basically saying, look, we know that when you start, you're not able to invest at the $10,000 a month level. So what would be reasonable for somebody who's really in the baby stages of stepping into marketing to be able to start to invest and actually do something that's going to be relevant and produce results? And you've basically laid out these phases of an increase in the amount of effort and therefore cost over time, that you can step into these roles. And I really like that, because it removes a lot of the confusion. Like, when somebody's stepping into the marketplace, they're like, well, I don't know. Should I go with pay-per-click? Should I go with SEO? Should I have a podcast? Should I do a blog? Should I, write a book? There's just the options are endless, which I said in the intro, right? But the problem with endless options is that we don't know which is the right one. And if you cut and run too quickly, you could be on the right one and just didn't wait long enough. And when you're in this place of need, it becomes very difficult to be patient. And we need to navigate stepping into this, where we start to get results and start to have clients, get the money wheel greased, and then we can build off of that. So, Erik, take us through this process of, okay, when you're first starting out, this is really what we need to conquer, and walk us through those 6 phases. And I want to go back and step into each one into more detail.
Sure. So yeah, we have 6 stages that we can walk a client through. Now, before we even get into the actual individual stages of our law firm growth strategy, if someone is like a solo practitioner, they're just starting out, cash is real tight, I would recommend, first and foremost, you need to get a website up and running. And you frankly can do this yourself. Now, it won't be a professional website. It won't have all the bells and whistles. It probably won't even do a great job converting clients. You probably won't know what to say. But there's countless, hundreds, probably thousands, maybe tens of thousands of do-it-yourself website builders out there. Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, GoDaddy. I could just rattle off a dozen easily. Pick one. They're all about the same. They really are. Pick one that's relatively cheap. Build if you need to just build a one page yourself, but have a presence on the internet. Now that's important because that's the only place on the internet that you control completely. And actually, there's even some rules there. Like you can't go ridiculous, but you're as a law firm, you're going to be pretty professional, whatnot. But you control that space. Get a domain name. You should always own the domain name for your website. Don't ever let an agency control that. So buy a domain name that's relevant to you, and then point it to the website that you build. And if you go with one of those systems I just rattled off, they'll help you all the way through. It's not perfect. It's not going to last you forever, but it gets you up and running. The next thing I would do is yourself go to Google Business Profile and create a profile there for your business. You're going to generate some leads from that right away of people that are looking for someone in your practice area that's close to them. And that's exactly what Google Business Profile, previously called Google My Business, is meant for. It'll drive leads to you and it'll get the phone to ring. Do all that first. Do it yourself. Once you're ready, and that could be on day one or it could be, year 3. But once you're ready to engage in a more professional marketing strategy, then you should contact someone like Array Digital. Now, if funds are tight, the first thing we recommend is fortify that local SEO presence. There's a lot of things that we can do to optimize it. There's a lot of things that we can do to tie it into your website. So focus on local SEO. Now, if there's anyone who's like a diehard SEO that's listening right now, they'll probably say, well, that's a misnomer. It's not really local SEO. It's all SEO. It's all organic. Yes, but it's locally focused. And so there's a lot that you can do specifically for the local SEO focus. So I would have your agency work on that if that's the only thing that you can afford. A lot of times that's done in what's called a sprint or a project. It'll be done over 2 or 3 months, delivered, and then you're off on your own again. The next thing after that is get a new professional website, professionally designed. All right, so this goes beyond what you could create yourself. Get a website built by someone who does this for law firms to make sure that it has the right copy on it. It's got the right images. You know who your avatar is, who you're seeking to attract. It's got some pages dedicated to your practice areas. Even if you're not implementing true SEO at that point, if you have dedicated pages that have the right words on it, you'll get some traction in Google. Next, stage 3, organic SEO. Now, there's a lot that we can unpack there, and we've broken it down into a couple of different microservices, if you will. But first and foremost, just take care of your basic SEO. What that means is technical SEO. Is it fast? Google cares about that. Is it mobile responsive? Google really cares about that these days. As a matter of fact, if it's not mobile responsive, you got problems these days. Let's see, what else? There's page speed insights. There's the user experience. Google is smart enough now where they can scan your website and see if it makes sense to a user the way that you've laid out the URLs, the menus, all those things. That's stage 3. Now, stage 4, 5, and 6 add on top of those things. In particular, stage 4, really, to summarize, more SEO, and in particular, writing dedicated pieces with a strategy to target individual queries, the searches that people do in Google, targeting very specific phrases that people put into Google so that when they search, you come up on that page 12 first, then 10, then 8, then 2, then 1, and then the top part of page 1. So in stage 4, we have content. That's an awful lot of legal copywriting. We work with our clients on that. We do the writing, but of course we need our clients to review and approve. And then link building, an active approach to building links. You can't just leave it up to chance that people will drop a link on your website. We have to make it happen. Stage 5, we do more content, more backlinking, and now we add in what we call retargeting ads. Retargeting ads are when people come to your website, you can show them an ad in a place like Facebook or Instagram. You have to pay for the ad, but you can show them an ad which is incredibly relevant because they've already gone to your website. They've expressed some level of interest in what you do. And for a relatively inexpensive amount, you can get back in front of them and at a minimum, remind them that you exist. So that's stage 5. Now, stage 6 is where we maximize everything and try to blow it out if we can. So we maximize content. We do all this by words per month. So start thinking like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 words a month, which is a lot, but we could do all that. And then as far as advertising goes, we don't recommend what we call prospecting ads until stage 6. Prospecting ads are where someone searches in Google for what they want and you have an ad that shows up. Very specific. You're prospecting for them, or
what people are typically calling pay-per-click, right?
Pay-per-click. Yep, exactly. Now, pay-per-click, that really can apply to lots of different, but Google search ads is really what most people think of when they hear PPC or pay-per-click or prospecting ads. But you're going out in the world with advertising dollars to try to find new people, whether it's based on what they search for in Google or some sort of demographic or what's called psychographic features of that person in a place like Facebook, and you put the right ad in front of them. But it's expensive. Now with Google, only 3% of people click on a Google ad. And that's what comes up at the very top of the Google search results. Google makes it, well, they make it difficult for you to skip over the ads. You have to actually take action. You have to scroll with your mouse or your finger to get past that. But 97% of people scroll past that because, well, for some reason. Well, it's likely because they don't trust the ad quite as much as they trust everything else. Mo, do you click on a lot of ads?
Only if I'm looking to see why it caught my attention and I want to like learn from it from a marketing perspective. You're like, oh, what are they doing? This is a good idea. Let me see how I could do the same for me.
I'll either click on an ad because of something like you just mentioned, or it's the perfect match to what I'm searching for. But it has to be just perfect. The right words the words have to exactly match what I typed in, has to be relevant to me, etc. But only 3%. So it's pretty expensive when you compare it to other tactics. And then also social media. Definitely social media at that point makes a lot of sense. And what I mean by social media is your organic posting. You can run ads as well, but really organic posting where you're re-engaging with an audience that's already said, yeah, we're interested in what you do. So that's the 6 stages. A lot of times clients come to us where they have a website and maybe they're running a ton of ads. So they have stage 2. They skipped over stage 1, local SEO. They have stage 2 nailed and they're doing part of stage 6. That's a very common thing that we see clients coming in. But
and it makes sense because stage 6 is when I'm going out to find new people. And if I haven't built the juice for them to find me on their own, then I'm trying to circumvent the system. I'm trying to go and find the people before they can go and find me. And so it really makes sense that that's where people go because they're doing marketing based out of need, not based out of future vision.
That's right. Exactly. It's almost desperation. They need those leads and they're willing to pay top dollar for them. And we've definitely seen $100 a click, $150 a click. It's crazy some of the numbers that we see for the legal profession. And people hate ads and they hate paying for ads, but they feel like they're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to get these clients unstuck a little bit, reduce your ad spend, how much you're spending every month on advertising. We don't tell them to cut it off because I understand what that means to deal flow. Carve some of that out and put it towards the long term, right? Don't focus on the short term 100%. Start investing in the long term. So SEO is your investment in the long term, whereas Google is much more just like a shot of adrenaline. Right?
Yeah.
So
now, interestingly, you put retargeting ads at number 5. Okay. And the retargeting ads. So first of all, for those who don't know what retargeting ads are, I know Erik mentioned it before, but I'll remind you. basically, if somebody lands on your website and then leaves, you can go on any platform that offers you to be able to advertise to somebody. Because they landed on your website, you were able to capture, register them to that provider. So you have a pixel, and you have your Facebook pixel, your Google pixel, your Twitter pixel, whatever it is, LinkedIn pixel. And now they know this person has hit your website, and they know when. So you can have an ad that runs for the first 7 days after somebody hits my website on any of these platforms, and they'll start seeing that ad, and not just on the platform, but also in any of the advertising partners. So it might start showing up in apps they're using on their phone that have ads in them. It might start showing up in different places. And that's genius. Like, retargeting ads are genius, because if somebody was on your site, there was a reason they were there. 95% of them were there on purpose. 5% probably by mistake, right? I clicked the link, I didn't mean to, I hit the back button. But most people are getting there because they have a need, and for whatever reason, they left your site without taking action. So now, if you can get in front of them and maybe just remind them, hey, we do a free consult, book your consult, or record a video explaining the importance of discussing your matter with an attorney to understand your options. There's, without commitment, and there's no commitment by doing that with you. And, giving them something like that in a retargeting ad, where they can watch a video, get to know you face to face. It's genius, right? So retargeting ads, it just doesn't make sense to have a website and not have retargeting ads. And I'm talking to myself while we're talking, right? Because we don't do retargeting ads unless we're in an active promotion. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, why wouldn't we do retargeting ads all the time, just to send somebody to my podcast or my YouTube channel, or just get them more into my brand? But anyway, what my question for you is, why step number 5? Like, the moment that I have people hitting my website, shouldn't I already be doing retargeting? Like, why am I waiting until that step?
Yeah, great question. I appreciate it. So, and like, I would say it's debatable, actually, right? Should it go into stage 3, stage 4, stage 5? The way that the reason that we put it into stage 5 is because what we want to do is start driving people to your website. So until people that you don't know are coming to your website, it's not really as pertinent, right? And so that's why we want to get SEO up and running. So the first stage of SEO is organic, and then we layer in content, and we layer in a backlinking program. So that will get people that you don't know coming to your website. Now, contrast that to people that you do know. If you don't do any digital marketing these days, it's going to be people that you bump into, people that you know, or referrals. They're going to come to you no matter what, right? It's easy for them to find you because they know your name. So that's
Right.
a brand search. They're going to find you no matter what if someone refers them. Now, you could absolutely retarget them, but our goal is to drive people that don't know you to your website first, and then capitalize on that by running retargeting ads.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. That makes a lot of sense. Basically, what you're saying is there's nothing wrong with doing it earlier. It just doesn't really have a purpose until you have people coming to your website that don't know who you are. And when you start having that happen, even if it's in stage 3, maybe that's when you should have retargeting ads turned on. And for the listeners, I'm going to jump in here and just make a statement, and you tell me if I'm correct or incorrect. Retargeting ads are very inexpensive. In other words, you don't need to have a big budget for those ads, because it's only going to spend when people hit that, right? So if you say, I want to run this for 14 days after somebody hits my website, then if only 100 people hit my website, it's only serving to those 100 people. And it's only if they happen to be on that social platform and your ad happens to serve. So you're not going to have a lot of impressions, and therefore you're not going to spend a lot of money. So it's almost like a no-brainer, no matter what level you're at, because the investment is so low.
Yeah, 100%, completely agree. So it's usually several $100s a month of ad spend, because you're right, you just don't have that many people that are going to a law firm website, or even my website, right? But you want them to be targeted people that are interested in your service. So if we were running something like, I don't know, pick eBay, retargeting on eBay, very expensive. A lot of people go there, right? Or retargeting the actual facebook.com website, very, very, very expensive. Or Google itself, right? Very, very, very expensive. But we're not dealing with that kind of quantity. We're dealing with low quantities, And you're right, it's going to be several $100s per month to get retargeting ads up and running. And those are something that you could actually get up and running yourself. Kind of like I said before, with local SEO, with a website. Like you can go into Facebook and Facebook will very gladly walk you through the process. Now, it may be confusing, it may be slightly inefficient, but you can get it up and running pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to have like the best ad in the world. It could simply be telling people to book a call or check out an article you wrote, or, you know, just something to engage them in your brand, back to you, make them aware that you're aware that they were on your website, you know, that kind of thing.
You know, to that point, I completely agree. So I would not overanalyze the production quality of what you're doing at all. So the retargeting ads and the primary prospecting ads that we run are typically me on this computer, which is a Chromebook, by the way, with this microphone, which is like a $50 microphone. If that, the whole setup was with the arm and everything else is about $100, and a light behind my computer, which is not even like a ring light. It's just a light. That whole setup, I mean, it did not cost me much. I already had it. It wasn't a big deal. And I just record, and it's almost always like a single recording, like one take. Because even if I say or take a long breath, it's okay because it's authentic and people respect that. So we don't spend a lot of money. We don't spend any money on like video production. Now, at some point we probably will. We'll take it to the next level. But the people seem to actually like embrace this authenticity thing. So I would be yourself, especially on social media, and just record a video saying how you can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I mean, right now my brain is going a mile a minute. Like, I need to create some quick videos, how to's, and just put it into as a bonus for my coaching clients, because this is something that they can do from day one. Like, hey, let's just make sure you've got your pixel installed. Let's make sure you've got some retargeting ads. And you know, like you said, it's something you can do yourself. I'm a big proponent of, let's engage a marketing agency, let's spend the money, let's do it right, but let's have a goal, and you know, like, you need to know what your expected results are. But this is one of those things that you don't need to wait for that big budget. You don't need to find the capital. You can, you know, this is like an easy win. All right, let's go quickly back. We're almost out of time, so I just want to quickly step through this. The first thing that you said is, hey, let's master local SEO, and I think that what you mean is like, let's get you coming up in like local search, the map pack, things like that, right? What are some things that somebody can do to control local SEO? Is that primarily from ratings and reviews? Like, what drives that?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is centered around the Google business profile. So first, get your Google business profile set up, have relevant services that are in there. Make sure that it's easy for people to connect with you through the website, through the phone number. Posts, there's a section in Google business profile called posts. It's very similar to like an Instagram post where there's a picture and there's words that go underneath of the picture. Those words we've seen actually do have some SEO value. So pick the words wisely. Try to pick words that have to do with the problems that your clients are having. So like, let's say you're a divorce attorney, you probably want to indicate that, you know, we can help you with your divorce, or if you're thinking about divorcing your spouse, those kinds of keywords, people that like what people search for, try to get some of those keywords into the post. Reviews are a big one. They're a big one. So you should ask your clients for reviews often. It should be part of your program. You should have a process eventually where at some point, whether it's at the beginning of the engagement, the middle of the engagement, at the end of the engagement, at some point you have a conversation with your client and you basically find out, are things going well for you? Are you happy with what we're doing here? And if the answer is yes, then say, hey, that's great. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that we can help you. By the way, we grow from referrals, and it would mean the world to us if you can go click this link that I'm about to send you and just leave a 5-star rating if you're happy with us. And if you want, you could even put in some comments. It would really, really help us a lot. And if you ask for it and you send them the link and all they have to do is click and then select 5 and put some words in if they want, really, really, really easy. So like one of the things that both Mo and I do for our podcast is every time we have a guest on, right, we ask, right? Mo, you asked me earlier, and I'm like, absolutely, I'll give you a review, right? And
Yep.
then when you're on my podcast, it'll be the same. So when you have an interaction like that, especially if you're giving some sort of value at no charge, like being a guest on a podcast, like a free consultation, ask, just ask. A lot of times people are afraid to ask, but you won't receive if you don't ask. So ask, get the link to the reviews. They matter a lot when it comes to local SEO. Just
It's
like
interesting with
go,
reviews. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. What's interesting with reviews is that it makes you a better law firm, because when you know you're asking for the review, you're going to pay more attention to their experience,
yeah,
and you're going to end up doing more things to impress them, wow them, get them to walk away feeling like they had a very valuable experience with interacting with your firm. So it in a way, it's kind of like a cheat code to enhancing what you're providing to your client.
yeah, completely agree. And a little bit more on that with reviews. Think about your own experience when you need something, whether it's a professional service or like a kind of a blue collar service. You need something, you need someone, right? A lot of times people do ask their friends, "Hey, do you know anyone who does X, Y, or Z?" And you'll get a referral to a company. A lot of all right, personally speaking, I'll speak from my own experience. A lot of times I won't just straight up call that company. What will I do? I'll go on Google and I'll search them. I want to see more about them. I want to see reviews. I want to see if they're a legitimate company or are they like a fly by night shop. And so I'm going to the internet to validate the referrals that I got. Everybody does this, I believe. I believe it. I've read studies where people do this. So it's not just my own experience. But a lot of times what I found is that if I do something, usually a lot of other people do it too. I'm not truly unique like that. So people validate these referrals that they get by going to the internet. So that's why reviews and ratings are very, very important because people trust the internet sometimes more than they trust their friends and family.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and uh, I don't even know if I want to ask the question because we're almost out of time, and I don't want to go down a whole rabbit hole. But there's a lot of people who are now running a virtual law firm, right? Like they're operating from their house. Their staff is working from their house. That some people were doing that before, but more and more people are doing it now post COVID, realizing, hey, I could do this, and it's really no big deal. I'll just rent a conference room at the local, WeWork or whatever it is, and this, if I need to meet with clients or whatever it is, and I can operate that way. But that really throws a monkey wrench into the local search equation and having a listing on Google. So, what are clients doing now, or what are you recommending for somebody in that position, for that Google listing?
Yeah, so that is becoming a more common thing. The co-working space address. Now, Google they have guidelines. As a matter of fact, we just looked them up about a week ago because someone that we know they got shut down. Their Google business profile got shut down because they were using a basically like you said a rented conference room, and then they upgraded to an office in Regis, which is a co-working space around the country. And there's actual rules like Google gives guidelines, and one of the rules is you have to be there during business hours and you have to have a room with like at least a room or an office with your name on it dedicated to you. So they have these rules in place which may be very hard for them to enforce. But what we've found with Google is that many times they will put best practices out into the internet so that people like us read these best practices and they expect us to follow them even if they can't enforce it. But when you hear about these algorithm updates happening and people's SEO just gets destroyed, and we see it all the time, climbing up, and then bam, you get hit with something and we got to figure out what it is. Well, it's because people are doing something outside of the best practices that Google has been saying for a while to the world. and they finally figured out how to enforce it.
Mhm.
So think about addresses. It's they scour the internet. They know where these co-working spaces are. They know where the UPS stores are that have the PO boxes that have an actual like suite number on them. They know these things, right? It is not difficult to find. As a human, you could figure this out. Google is getting incredibly intelligent. And so they're figuring these things out. So we always recommend stick by the guidelines as much as possible. We're not going to knowingly violate those guidelines because we consider ourselves professionals, and we're not going to do that. That could get us in trouble with Google, but we'll provide recommendations. So the co-working spaces, it's it's hit or miss at this point, but at some point it's going to be very clear like you can't do that. So the best course of action is to have a physical address, no doubt about it, a physical business commercial address.
Yeah, absolutely. I have more questions on that topic, but we're gonna have to save that for another conversation because we're really out of time. But we're just running through new professional website designed. I'm just going to add, have professional headshots done. Might cost you some money up front, but you want to, when somebody lands there and they land on the website, you want it to actually look like, it wasn't taken by your kid on their portable camera. Organic SEO, technical SEO, fast, mobile, responsive, page speed, insights, user experience. That stuff is over my head. I'm hiring a marketing agency for that. I recommend you do the same. More SEO, writing pieces. You can write your own blogs. There are some attorneys who really enjoy writing their own blog posts. The problem is that you're not writing it from the perspective of what you're trying to rank for. And when you go to a marketing agency and they're writing it for you, they're writing it with that in mind. They've done the research. They figured out what are the links that we want to rank for. Now we're going to write content around that. We're going to make sure that the phrase of the headline of the article is something that's going to directly match that phrase. We're going to pepper that phrase throughout the article multiple times in a way that legitimately makes sense in the article. We're not just doing it to game the system. And so on. So you want to have the right writers and the right, and the agency behind it to do all that research. You don't want to be needing to wear that hat. So definitely that's where you want to go. More content, more backlinking and retargeting ads. We went into retargeting ads in depth, and then maximizing content and prospecting ads and social media. Now, interestingly, you put social media in number 6, and this is the last thing I want to close out with. A lot of attorneys think that their number one place to start is social media. Like they should be on TikTok, or they should be in Clubhouse, or they should be on Instagram, and they're trying to be, gain followers there and all of that. And maybe business to person businesses like, I don't know, family law, immigration law, bankruptcy law, those where the mass public is my target clientele. Maybe that makes sense to invest your time and energy and effort into. But what are your thoughts on social media, and when should an attorney start paying attention to that? And does it need to be them, or can they have someone else do it for them?
If an attorney has the interest and frankly the time and the expertise, or the skill set to put together an interesting TikTok or reel on Instagram, I would say go for it, because you will get some attention, but it's time consuming, and there's no one better to be in front of that camera than you as the person representing your law firm. So this is a commitment that you have to make of your time, which means you're definitely sacrificing things like family time or billable time. And so for those reasons, most attorneys are not really that interested, because it does require a lot of investment of their effort and time. So you mentioned like TikToks are, I mean, I was on it this morning. It's obsessive, right? Between that and reels. And I love it. And I think it's great. I think but you have to really invest in that. So if anyone's familiar with like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, it has to be like almost like that style. Like you have to really, really go all in on it. And it's going to take a lot of your time and energy and frankly, money. to have a film crew and go out on location. And it's a big deal. It's not something you can just hire an agency to do for you and it just happens in the background. So for
Yeah.
that reason, for law firms, we think it's something that you should do later on. The flavor, frankly, the flavor of social media that we do is not along those lines. It's not the TikToks. You're not going to be dancing in front of a camera. We don't have a production crew. It's going to be more organic, if you will, to talk about your services, the clients that you help, the problems that you solve. But if you're going to do SEO and go all in, it's a big investment. That's not our strong point. So what we do is we like to re-engage the audience, and you're not going to get the kind of ROI that you would get from something like SEO or a professional website.
Right. The other thing to keep in mind with social, and this is not an anti-social conversation, it's just you have to weigh your options and figure out which is the one that's most aligned to you and what you're building. The other thing with social is that when you create it, generally it's lost, right? Like if it doesn't get attention right away, it's gone.
Right.
So the effort that you put in is potentially wasted, or it only works if you're continuing to churn out more and more posts that are keeping people engaged with you and your channel. Whereas something like a podcast or YouTube or things like that, where you're putting something out there that's now going to show up in search, it's now going to be evergreen content. It's always there. That would be a much better place to put your efforts than trying to become to gain that social exposure. Now, that being said, since nobody else is doing it, since it's so difficult, the barrier to entry is so high, because it has to be you, because most people don't even think that they have what it takes. You could be very successful if you are a business to consumer attorney and you are able to master it, which is why there are some attorneys out there that are like, they get most of their business from TikTok. And that happens because they took the time and mastered the platform, and they have the time and energy. So the case studies are there to show that it can be successful, but for most people, it's not the right medium. I mean, I love getting in front of a camera. I love talking. I don't do Reels. I don't do TikTok, because I don't have that kind of time. I'd much rather be hanging out with my kids in the morning than focusing on what's going to be my TikTok video today. So, so that's basically where our thoughts are on social media. And I think that myself and Erik seem to be aligned in how to approach that decision. Erik, we got to wrap it up. It's time to go. It's been an absolute blast. A lot of fun talking about all these different things. Two things. If you can leave one lasting piece of advice to our listeners, regardless of what stage they're in, and then also how can they learn more about you or take the next steps in getting in touch with you?
Sure. So I could kind of wrap those two things up into one, since we're a little short on time here. But look, hiring an agency is a difficult decision. There's a lot of things that you should consider. So we created a law firm growth guide. You can find it at lawfirmgrowthguide.com. It's free. Of course, it's a lead magnet, right? So we're going to ask for your name, we're going to ask for your email address, and then we're going to send you emails afterwards. But it will explain everything that you should know before you engage with an agency, the different components of digital marketing, the ones that we support, the ones that we don't support. But it'll go into detail about that. It's about 20 pages long. It should take you 30 minutes probably to consume. And if you just kind of scan it, it could be even faster, but it'll give you the information that you need so you can start finding the agency that's right for you. So that's lawfirmgrowthguide.com.
Love that. And I love that you got the law firm growth in there. We have the law firm growth summit. We have the law firm growth formula. We're all about law firm growth. So might have to buy that URL from you one day. Folks, we're linking that up in the show notes for you. If this is your first time listening to the Profit with Law podcast, we'd love it if you hit the subscribe button so that you get notified every time we release a new episode. We're here every Thursday with a new guest. Love the material that we're putting out. I'm excited about it, and I am sure that you're enjoying it as well. And Erik, thank you so much for your time. I'm excited to get on your show and have another conversation with you. Looking forward to that. And folks, go check Erik's show out. And we talked about ratings and reviews. So jump into your podcast player and just give us a rating and review. Take you 2 seconds of your time, maybe a little bit longer if you actually write something. But we thrive on that. Like, people search and they find our show and they decide whether to pass over it or listen based on how many stars we've got, how many people have written something about our show. So we can really use as much of those as we can get. So appreciate it if you take the time to do that. Every once in a while, we run a promotion around that, so make sure that we know who you are when you leave it, and we'll make sure that we keep you in that in those promotions that come up. Take care. Have a wonderful day. We'll catch you next Thursday. Have you been enjoying the show? We sure hope so. To make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player app. Next week, we will be back with more valuable resources and ideas on how to break the mold and take your law firm to the next level.